Yes, you know the music, you hear it, you know it, you see Trav rocking out. Welcome into Foxboro Rush. We're through 4 training camp practices for the Patriots, so we'll have Sean McGuire joining us in just a moment, coming live from his latest observations from the latest practice out in Gillette. We'll go through, Travis and I, through our main takeaways through 4 days of camp before the pads come on. And you see the shirt, You know what it is. Quarterbacks are getting paid. We talk about the new deals for Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa and what that means for the future of the position. But let's bring him in right away. Sean McGuire of Nesson.com joining us from Gillette Stadium. Sean coming on the heels right after Patriots practice as of the recording of this pod. Sean, I want to start with, how we doing today, bro? Good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be back, George. Like always, it's nice. It wasn't overly sunny today. I actually have been out here for 4 days. I'm pleasantly not red. Usually it's 2 shades. It's either ghostly white or bright red. So I feel pretty good.
I'm shocked with the last name McGuire. I always thought you were Greek, but I guess that makes sense.
That's right.
Look, no sunburn. I know the temperatures haven't been bad with the latest practices, but let's start out with what you picked up from Sunday. First off, what was the competition level like? What were the team levels like? And what went down today that stood out to you?
Yeah, a few things. So I think the biggest or the most exciting part of the day was the Patriots. They had one-on-ones, and that was receivers against cornerbacks and tight ends against linebackers. It's the first time through 4 days that we've seen that. So it was pretty exciting, definitely a fan favorite sort of thing. And the crowd here was actually better today, definitely better today than it was the first few days of camp. So that was great too. But yeah, I mean, overall takeaway from Sunday, I would say not a great day for the offense. The quarterbacks weren't great. I would say, just defense won again. And it's really that's kind of been the case through probably the better part of 4 practices. I would say at least 3 of those. So that I would say that's kind of the biggest takeaway, I would say.
Talk to me about Drake Maye, please, because I'm all in for week 1 in the jungle. Slim Shady, hair-having Joe Burrow against the rookie phenom, Drake Maye. Give it to me. I'm trying to get some cannon fodder to convince George that this is the way to go. Tell me everything good. Don't tell me anything bad about Drake Maye today, please. Thank you,
propaganda. He wants propaganda.
Thank you, S-Mac.
I think the way I would put it is, it's what you would expect at this point, through 4 days. It's not overly consistent. It's very conservative, especially day 2. I remember it was just, check down after check down. I think I marked at the time, I think it was like 6 of his 10 completions that day were less than 10 yards, essentially check downs. But with that said, he's had some really high highs. He had a great throw to Jalen Reagor the day 1. That same day, and I think this is actually my favorite play that I've seen from him. It was like a little play action rollout sort of thing. They work on this drill, time and time again, every single day. And we kind of saw that in 11 on 11 sort of period. And just, the athleticism, the mobility, making plays kind of off platform, out of the pocket, that sort of thing. He delivered a sidearm sort of strike, I guess, to Juju Smith-Schuster at the time. And he's had some other plays in addition to that. Not yesterday, but during the 3rd day of camp on Friday, he had a really nice throw to Jalen Polk, which he actually said, he's like, I probably could have looked off the safety a little bit better. I probably could have put Jalen in a better position. But I thought that was the most explosive play I think that we've seen. And then, he just a few nice connections. I would say the biggest thing though is, like I said, it's been very conservative. He's not, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not trying to paint that like in a bad light or anything. It's just taking what the defense gives him and not making too many mistakes. He did make one mistake on Friday, the 3rd day. He said, he called it a rookie mistake. He kind of worked off his first read, went to the flat where he thought Ramondre Stevenson was going to be. Ramondre Stevenson was there, but so was Matthew Judon. And Matthew Judon took it, picked it, took it for a pick 6. And, I would say that was kind of the low light that Drake has seen thus far of camp.
I actually saw a video circulating where he threw an absolute beaut of a ball to Juju Smith-Schuster in one-on-ones. Dropped right in Juju Smith-Schuster's breadbasket, and he dropped it in the damn end zone. So my last question to you is, you told me everything great about Drake Maye. Thank you. Please tell me Juju is getting cut from this team.
It's funny you ask that. I was just kind of writing up a observation sort of story for Nesson.com. And one of the things I have in there is it is very difficult to see Juju Smith-Schuster making the team through 4 days. It's been very
four days, no pads, Trav. 4 days, no pads.
Yes.
And shout out to Alex Austin making the play to knock that ball out of Juju's hands. Sorry, Sean, go.
Yes.
Sean, go.
No, yes, I'm glad you brought that up. And I actually, not to toot my own horn, I also mentioned that on Nesson.com that there hasn't been pads and everything. But it's not only that play. It's just it's really been underwhelming through 4 days. The separation is just, it's not there. Today, I actually wrote this. It was Marcus Jones had a pass breakup on Juju Smith-Schuster. And it was just like, I don't know, it was so strange. There was no separation to be had. And I remember thinking like a few days ago, was either day 1 or 2, they're going through these receiver drills, and it almost looks like he's kind of like half-assing it, like kind of jogging through these drills, and he comes up short on 2 deep balls. I think they're both from Jacoby Brissett, and again, that was day 1 or 2, and I'm like, geez, like everyone is talking about competition here, but like, does Juju Smith-Schuster not think he's in a competition for his job right now? But yes, to answer your question, I would say, at this point, I think it's a no-brainer that he's not going to make the team. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks when pads come on, but it's tough to envision that he does.
See, that's what stuck out to me too, and I agree with you. No separation. That's where I'll give Trav something. But also with him asking about Drake Maye week 1, that's the conclusion he took when I said, I like the way that Drake Maye just shows up and locks in during stretching. And Trav goes, cool, sound the horns. Drake Maye's the new QB1. You mentioned one-on-ones. You talked about Drake Maye. You talked about Juju Smith-Schuster and his lack of separation. I noticed that when I was down there with you and Keegan Stiefel as well. But who jumped out to you today, whether a defensive back or a wide receiver that shined in one-on-ones? Because to me, that's huge. Separation and finishing the play.
Yeah, it's without a doubt, it's Javon Baker. He had by far the nicest catch of the day. He might have had the nicest catch at camp today in that one-on-one drill. He's going against kind of a depth corner, 3rd string, maybe 4th string cornerback in Mikey Victor, but he beat him off the line. He ran a fade. He was maybe 5 to 6 yards ahead of him. And then, so like he had the separation there, but he kind of is forced to kind of recalculate when the ball's in the air, like a last second adjustment sort of thing. And he caught it, and everyone among the media on the little media hill that we have was talking about, Willie Mays, and that's what it was. It was that kind of over the shoulder, fell into his lap, but not really fell into his lap. He just kind of had to adjust to it, and that's how it fell into his lap. But it was the nicest play of camp, I think, at this point. In terms of, some other ones, I actually know Jaheim Bell did pretty well during that one-on-one stretch. I know he had at least 2 wins. He might have went 3-0 actually in his kind of 3 matchups. Christian Gonzalez, another one, no surprise, but he fared well in that one-on-one. Marcus Jones, again, I just mentioned the pass breakup he had on Juju in 11-on-11s. He fared well in one-on-ones as well. So, probably not the most surprising corners. That's what they're there for, right? If Christian Gonzalez is getting beat in one-on-ones against Jalen Reagor and Juju Smith-Schuster, you got an issue. But he fared well, and I would say that the wideout that stood out the most was definitely Javon Baker.
Yeah, I remember even from Thursday watching Javon Baker, because when Joe Milton or Bailey Zappi are in, I'm going to watch the receivers. I don't care for those quarterbacks, but the good separation. I like that you brought up Marcus Jones as well, because you go back to Thursday, Jalen Polk would have had a sweet high-point catch from Jacoby Brissett. Marcus Jones, perfect defense on it, broke it up. We see that continuing. But also, enough with the one-on-ones for me. I'm all about what the offensive line is. And we've seen the progress from practice to practice. Hey, Trav, you want Drake Maye week 1?
Yes.
You need a good offensive line. You need the 5 best guys playing together.
All right.
What was it looking like at left and right tackle today, Sean?
Yeah, I would say use the term progress pretty loosely there. That's just me. But today it looked exactly like it did on Friday. And by that, I mean Chuck Okorafor was on the right side, Caden Wallace was on the left side. That's different than what we saw the first 2 days when Chuck Okorafor was on the left side, and kind of a rotating cast of characters, a carousel of progress sort of thing on the right side. The first few days of camp we saw, and I wanted to write this down because I do feel like there were so many different names, but Vidarian Lowe, Calvin Anderson, Caden Wallace was on the right side at that point too, and now Chuck's has been on the right. So I think through like the first 2 days of camp, I almost felt like, so I'll start by saying that the interior seems like it's completely locked down. It's been Sidney So, it's been David Andrews, and it's been Mike Onwenu from left guard, center, right guard, respectively, kind of those three. And it's been like that since the first snap of day one. And it was like that today. So after 2 days of that, I kind of felt, I'm like, all right, maybe the only competition is actually at right tackle as opposed to left tackle. And as soon as I think I started thinking that, and some others started thinking that, Gerard Mayo's like, no, we're going to tweak this all up and revolving door at both tackles. And that's how it's been the last 2 days. So, it's really tough to gauge like how the offensive line is playing. Again, there's no pads, anything like that. But with that being said, there's been, 6-7 sacks at this point in camp. It feels pretty routine. I know there was just 3 today. It feels pretty routine that the pass rush is getting there. And, whether that's forcing Jacoby Brissett to leave the pocket or, make mistakes or whatever the case may be, it's just, I don't want to go too hard and be like the offensive line has been completely abysmal because they're not in pads yet. So I don't know if that's really fair to say, but I do think it's fair to say that the defense and the defensive line specifically has had its way with the offensive line.
S. Mizzle, this is an observation I've had so far at camp. I feel like Gerard Mayo is almost too transparent when he talks to you all after these practices. And here's what I mean. I do understand wanting to change the culture. We know Bill Belichick forever just refused to say anything, right? So I get why Gerard Mayo is so open-armed and transparent and honest, and it appears to me loves talking to the media. But 2 things have jumped out to me during this camp. First of all, when Jabril Peppers re-signed and they asked Gerard Mayo about it, it was almost like he was surprised that he's a head coach. He was like, I guess I can confirm that. I am the head coach. Didn't love that. Then they asked about the offense. When's the offense going to catch up to the defense? When do you think we'll be on an even playing field and be a balanced team? And he says, historically, the defense has always been better and will be better. And I'm like, I don't love that either. I find myself wanting a little more coach speak, I guess. I don't need him to go full-blown Belichick on me.
That's what you're asking for.
I don't know. I don't think I love – maybe it's just the comments themselves that are bothering me. I know that's an observation and not really a question, but do you see the same thing as me? Does it bother you at all? Are you the things you hear from Gerard Mayo, are you impressed? Are you walking away thinking, uh-oh? Because I'm starting to feel a little uh-oh here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I feel uh-oh by any means. I do think that what you said about the contract thing, I think that's – and I actually wrote a story about this on Friday night too, that it's like a glaring difference to me to hear Matthew Judon come out and talk open and honestly about his contract situation. Right. And the next day, Devon Gottschalk comes out and talks open and honestly and essentially negotiates in public with Robert Kraft about these are the deals that I'm looking for. That's just – it's like you hear that and it's like, oh my God, I feel like I was taken back by it. I'm like, wow, this is really is a whole new world sort of thing that, we're hearing this sort of thing. So I don't have any, and Gerard actually came out after Judon's comments about his contract and said, I have no problem with it. I want these guys to feel like they can express themselves. And he's like, eventually someone's going to come out and say, I hate Coach Mayo. And he's like, and when that time comes, I'll understand it. It's their, that's what they can do that. It's their platform sort of thing. I didn't have an issue with either of those, I don't think. And then just kind of what you were saying about the defense of the offense, I do understand where you're coming from. I also think that it's kind of obvious, right? Like it's to me, it's like so painfully obvious that the defense is going to have a leg up on the offense at this point in training camp. Like you have the majority of your defense that was good last year. They're returning with the defensive head coach. Nothing is really changing. Belichick's not here anymore, but the scheme and that sort of thing isn't really changing that drastically. Then you have an offense where you're hoping to bring along a rookie quarterback, 2 rookie receivers, an offensive line who is, I don't know, in limbo, I guess is putting it mildly. And it's like, and that's not, those are just the players. That's not even talking about the scheme and the offense and what Van Pelt's bringing along and the new offensive line coach and Scott Peters and all those guys. Like, to me, it's like it's so obvious that the defense should be ahead of the offense, but it does come to a point where it's like, okay, we're 4 days in and it's painfully obvious. So like, when do we start getting a little nervous about this? When do we start second guessing just how far the defense is ahead? And I think Gerard almost kind of said that as like maybe heard some of the media chatter and about how the defense was lighting up the offense. And he's like, all right, let's kind of pump the brakes here. This is historically what happens. And it is in his defense. So I didn't have much of an issue with that either. I think it was more or less, it was almost like he was sticking up for the offense.
You know what? Defensive head coach sticking up for the offense. I don't hate that. What I asked to that, though, and I agree, like we've seen the offense yet to like stand out, like deep plays, explosive plays. It's been check down heavy. And Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett's numbers have been up and down when it comes to their completions and the degree of difficulty of the passes that they are executing and completions they're making. But when you talk to the offensive players and when you observe an Alex Van Pelt or T.C. McCartney on the sidelines, does it look like there's panic? Whether coming from the players' voices or when you're watching the assistant coaches, or for all of them, they might be bought into it's going to take time. We need patience. Because I know guys that come from the West Coast offense, it's not about quantity, it's quality of reps. And they would rather take one play, execute it right, and get it down, even if it takes multiple tries and a lot of time, than trying to get everything done together by day 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, so your question, I think, is more like, have you noticed any panic? And no, I haven't. I've actually seen almost the complete opposite of that. Like, it seems like every offensive lineman that we talk to is saying, like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll play whatever position they want. I'll do whatever this. I'll do whatever this. I mean, I think it was Mike Onwenu just the other day was asked, like, when do you want to know what position you're playing? And he's like, well, if I could find out on game day, like that would be nice. And I'm thinking like, well, that's nice that, you have guys at this point that are willing to kind of, I don't know, take it on like that. And it's, like I said, it's Caden Wallace said the same thing today. I'll play whatever position they want me to. And then you have receivers coming out, and it was Jalen Polk the other day who said, and this is probably a little excessive and bold, maybe a bold prediction on his part, but he said something along the lines of like, I think we have the best quarterback room in the league. Thinking like, well, that sounds all good, but no. But no, I think, and we've heard a lot from the receivers too, the rookie receivers, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker spoke today. And it just feels like everyone is, they know they have a long way to go. They know there's plenty of room to grow, but no one is like, oh my God, we're not going to get this right. Or, oh my God, I'm nervous about getting this or anything like that. No.
That's my thing. When you see the panic come from the professionals, that's when I'll start to be worried. But for now, I'm not. Hey, when this episode drops, it'll be the first day of full padded practice for the Patriots on Monday. What are you going to be looking for, and what do you expect to learn about this team? Finally seeing the pads on, and where Gerard Mayo always preaches competition, you can have full-on competition because it's full go in the sport of football. No more just shorts and T-shirts, it's full pads.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing you look for is, I guess the thing I expect right off the jump is I expect the defense to, again, be ahead of the offense. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest things I'm looking for is how is the offensive line competing, and what's the new offensive line groupings now that we're in pads and getting closer and closer to first preseason game and the start of the season. So I think those are the two things that I'm looking for. In addition, the receivers, we'll see what receivers continue to pop and all that sort of thing. I think Jalen Reagor has really kind of been carving out nice role over the last few days. I know, day one, I think he probably was the best receiver on the field. And it's really been over the last, since I would say over the last two practices for specifically, I think Jalen Polk and Javon Baker they're really getting comfortable. Javon Baker had a really nice catch I just mentioned to you today in the one-on-ones, but on Friday as well, he had, I think it was like a 60-something yard throw from Joe Milton, Travis's boy. And, Javon Baker went up over a rookie corner. So, again, he's playing against the 3s and the 4s, but he made a great, acrobatic catch for that too. And, Jalen Polk, same thing. He's working a ton with the 1s. A lot of that has to do with Demario Douglas hasn't been competing in the competitive period, hasn't been practicing in the competitive periods yet. He confirmed that today. It was, a hand injury, but both he and Gerard Mayo are not really concerned about, any longevity or that, that extending for too long. Pop Douglas pretty much came out and said, I'm looking forward to being back soon. But because of that, it's made Jalen Polk, get a ton more reps. And it's really been interesting through the first 4 practices that, we're writing down all these offensive line combinations. Like, this is the offensive line when Jacoby Brissett's out, and this is the offensive line when Drake May's out. For the wide receivers, it's really tough to gauge who they have as like the ones and that probably speaks to the fact that, something that we've discussed for weeks now, they don't really have a true number 1. So it's kind of a mix of guys, but it's so many different guys kind of among the mix with that. So I'll be looking to see how those receivers are competing once the pads come on.
I'm so glad you're talking receivers because that's exactly where I'm going, Smeezy. I'm looking at what's going on with the 49ers right now.
You're changing this up as much as the offensive line is.
That's right. I'm versatile. Now, listen. Trent Williams is unhappy with his current deal. Brandon Ayuk, we know, wants to leave town and get paid. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I think the Patriots should be the 49ers East because I go get both of them. Is there any scuttlebutt at all? Are you hearing from your trusted sources at all? Is there anything to the Ayuk or even the Trent talk coming here to New England at all? Or are you hearing absolute radio silence?
Yeah, I think, and I might have mentioned this to George when I was on last time. I think the Ayuk is, I think it's essentially like so far gone at this point. I think for the Patriots to offer, this, whatever it was, number 34, whatever the pick was at the time in the draft, and for that to be shut down, I think that's the best offer they could come up with. I don't think that they're going to try to give up a first round pick. I don't think, and I mentioned this last time too, I think they'll probably be picking in the second round pretty close to where they did this in April. And so maybe they try to throw that back and you're just kind of see if anyone bites there. But I don't see the Ayuk trade happening. San Fran has just been so steadfast in not wanting to give that up, and makes all the sense in the world for them not to. And it's kind of the same, for all the same reasons. Like, they're a Super Bowl contender. So why would they trade Trent Williams or why would they trade Brandon Ayuk? Like, it's just, I have a really hard time believing it's going to happen. I'm not surprised that there's, some contract issues there. They're paying so many guys, not including their quarterback, that, you're going to have some, internal kind of strife, I guess. But I would be very surprised if either of those guys are anywhere but San Fran when the season starts.
The foundation year. That's what Gerard Mayo called it before the first practice, Trav, and it continues to look like that. Sean McGuire, thanks so much for joining the show. Catch his full coverage over on NESN.com because, as you guys heard, plenty of content going out there. Him and Keegan Stiefel are going to be down at training camp the entire duration over the summer. You guys will see Sean again. Sean, thanks for taking the time, man.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
See ya. All right, Trav. So,
man,
do you want to have a moment?
I'm so upset. It's just my thing is this, right? I understand where the 49ers are coming from with what Sean's saying. Like, we're trying to win a Lombardi. We got you under contract. Just relax. But Brandon Ayuk's raising hell, and he's saying, "I don't want to be here. Like, get me out of here." So oblige him. Like, get him out of there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. Listen, I don't know about you, GB. I'm just be honest. I have never been the type who's gonna baby please you to stay if you want to go. I am always like, there is a door if you don't want to be here. You understand?
Yeah.
So Brandon Ayuk doesn't care about winning a Lombardi, and he wants the money, honey. Let him go get paid. I just don't understand this notion like, well, the Niners are trying to win, and, he is under contract. So, like, no, you don't want to be here. See ya. And I'd get whatever I could for him and wish him luck on getting his money. I just don't love – Trent, I sort of understand, right? Veteran dude, been there a long time. They're going to work something out. I mean, he's one of the best in the game at what he does. I get that. But Brandon Ayuk is literally saying, I don't want to be here. You're not going to pay me. Get me out of here. I would be on the phone with New England, with the Commanders, with whoever the hell wants this guy, and we know it's a number of teams that do, and I would get a deal done. I just hate this notion of like, well, they're going to hang on to him because they're trying to win. Well, no Shaq, Sherlock, but he doesn't want to win. So why would you hang on to him?
Because he is 18 yards a catch. He's your deep ball threat. He's a top 10 receiver in the league.
Not if he pouts.
And he will show up because he's not going to keep eating these $50K fines. And with him and Trent Williams, you have two all-pro caliber players. Trent Williams literally is all-pro.
Yeah.
He's the best left tackle in the game.
Yes.
And you're on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl right before you have to pay Brock Purdy. Because as you saw what happened with Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa,
right,
you're not going to get Brock Purdy to show up and play under center for anything less than $40 million a year guaranteed.
That's right. Oh, gosh.
And we've gone through it.
At
And
least.
I understand the Niners have come up short time and time again.
Yeah.
You go back 2 years ago, Brock Purdy tears his elbow, and they're down to literally no quarterbacks, and they lose to the Eagles.
Right.
And they just were never in the game because it happened so early. You go back to the actual Super Bowl, Dre Greenlaw goes down with the torn Achilles.
Yep.
Changed the whole defense. I know off-ball linebackers aren't as sought after as they used to be. You want the guys on the edge that can rush the passer.
Right.
But when you have two athletic off-ball linebackers like Greenlaw and Warner, that is what leads your offense, and they're so versatile to what everyone wants. It's why the Patriots rebrought Kyle Duggar. But the point I'm making with bringing up these past injuries is the 49ers are looking at it right now. We extended CMC. He's happy. George Kittle, he's cooling right now. So is Bosa. So is Hufanga. We have our cornerbacks. Everything's set, right? We went out and got Leonard Floyd.
Right.
We got our quarterback on a rookie scale.
Right.
Debo Samuel, this is the last year of the deal. We're going to part ways with him after. Then Ricky Pearsall comes in and takes over, right? Everything's there.
Yeah.
Everything's lining up for a win-now championship mode. And that's what the 49ers are on. So if they call the Commanders or Patriots, especially the Patriots, they call the Patriots, they're going to go, give us your first round in this upcoming draft. And the Pats are going to say no because they know how bad they are.
Yeah.
Because they need help on the offensive line. We've seen 3 different left tackle, right tackle combinations through 4 days with the ones. Because Wednesday was Chuks Okorafor and Calvin Anderson, left and right. Thursday, Chuks Okorafor on the left, Caden Wallace on the right side. Friday, Wallace on the left side, Chuks Okorafor on the right side. This Patriots team is so far away from needing a number one receiver, they need to figure out the guys up front that'll protect their quarterbacks. And it does get to a point, I get it, no pads on, you're going to experiment, and you have your middle 3 locked in. Sidy So was great last year and grew as the season went on. David Andrews, nothing further needs to be said. Mike Onwenu, nothing more needs to be said about him. And it's going to be redundant, and people in Boston are going to get sick and tired of hearing it, but it's the best 5 that play together. It's not the best left tackle and the best right tackle. It's the best 5 playing together. And what you mean by that is you need the 5 guys up front to know how to communicate, know how one another is going to move, and literally all 5 play as one in sync to lead this run game and protect that quarterback.
Right.
And that is a priority right now. But let's get back to the Brandon Ayuk thing. Yeah, he doesn't want to be there. Tough luck, man. We're about to pay you $14 million. You're going to show up. And Brandon, this is where you sit him down. Brandon, all right, you don't want to come? That's fine. You don't want to stay? Cool. Stay here. And this is where someone on his team needs to wake him up. Stay here. Show up, play with your hair on
Ball
fire,
out. Yep.
like you got that mother effer in you, which you do.
He does.
Show everyone why you should get paid.
Yep.
All right, the Niners aren't going to give you $28 million a year the next few years. Go out and play.
Yep.
You see these wide receiver contracts?
Yeah.
You win a Super Bowl, you go be that guy, you're going to get $32 million a year. So I think there has to be a better way for both sides to handle it. And I think I need to see from Brandon Ayuk, him to grow up, be an adult, and show up and play.
No doubt. But that's easier said than done when you play a violent sport. I mean, what happens? You just talked about his teammate blowing his Achilles coming off the sidelines in the bleeping Super Bowl. Like, these things happen. So if he goes out there this year and gets hurt in the preseason or week 1 or at camp, God forbid, then there goes your money. So I do understand.
I stand both sides.
Yeah, of course. And that's my point is like, just pick up the phone, make the deal. Maybe it's not the Patriots, But maybe there is another team that'll give up their one to go get him. I think my issue is the notion that the Niners are just like, well, too bad. Like
they are immediately a worse team. When you look how much better your Lions have gotten this offseason.
Right.
With how much better the Eagles defense has gotten, let alone their offense. We'll see what they do with Kellen Moore, who should be an upgrade at offensive coordinator. I want to get to this quick, then we're going to get to quarterback talk.
All right.
Jabril Peppers.
Yep.
3 years, $24 million extension signed, worth up to $30 million. This comes as he's on the final year of his current extension that he's on right now, that he signed last spring. This makes the Matt Judon and the Devon Godchaux gripelings all that more interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, Duggar got paid. Jabril got paid.
Everyone.
Why don't I get paid? And Devon Godchaux is going out and he's saying, you see the guys like Grover Stewart with the Colts? You see Dalvin Tomlinson with the Browns? He literally name-dropped these guys that are making 13 to about 14, almost 15 million a year. And he goes, I do the same thing as them. And I understand all you guys are saying what we do on third down. You know how we get to third down? I stop the run on first and second down. I'm the one that does the Vince Wilfork dirty work in the middle of the defense. So Devon Godchaux is in an interesting part, and he's only 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So I understand where he's coming from, where he's vital to this defense. And then you see guys where I'm going, well, they're saving the money for the offense. But then Elliott Wolf gives Jabril Peppers, who is a tone setter, one of their best players on defense. He gives him this big extension. And now I understand where Judon and Godchaux are looking, go, I know I have money coming up. I want long-term security. It's what everyone in the NFL wants now, man.
Yeah, particularly Judon, though. I mean, this is a guy whose production really matches what he's asking for. I can't imagine, and I know you said security there. In way of Matthew Judon, I don't believe job security is necessarily the duration of the contract, the years. I don't think he's looking for that. He knows he's getting long in the tooth. There's a lot of tread, probably left on those tires, but there's a lot of tread off of those tires too. He's got a lot of miles on them. So I just imagine he wants the cash. And even though Jabril Peppers got paid, and I'm cool with it, he's another one in the long line of the Patriots defensive players who have cashed out this offseason and been retained. And good for him. It's deserving. I'm not taking anything away from Jabril Peppers, but I still look at the Matthew Judon thing as the most head-scratching non-contract I've seen this offseason. Why not? So what? You and I have talked about this. 2-year deal. Fine. Cash him up, baby. Put some cash in his pockets. What's the problem? I just don't understand it, and I love the way Matthew Judon specifically has handled this situation.
Shows up works.
Yes, that's the way to handle it. Not to compare yourself to these players around the league and say, well, Drew Rosenhaus, I trust him to handle.
But he did in a way. He goes, I see what everyone's making.
Yeah, right.
And I know I'm better than those guys. And he's talking league and his dressing room.
He is.
I respect Devon Godchaux going, here's a name, here's a number. Here's a name, here's a number. I do the same thing, pay me.
Right.
I think I respect how both guys are handling it. They're showing up, they're practicing and participating.
They can afford both. You know what I mean? Like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. I don't understand it.
If that wide receiver one doesn't come down the pipeline, these are two key guys. I think Godchaux, because of his age, could be there as a high impact guy.
What's he, 29?
For years to come, yeah. While Judon's about to be 32.
Right, and he's an older 32. I mean, 29 fits right in line with what they've been handing out. You know, these extensions they've been handing out have been the younger players anyways. So I don't really understand that. Judon, I at least understand a bit in that he is a veteran. He is coming off injury. But, man, I mean, technically, literally, you still have the most cap space in the league. You could afford both of these guys. Don't sign them to long-term deals. Fine. Give them a 1 or 2 year extension. But what are we doing? I just don't know why they're picking and choosing certain players and not the others. It doesn't make sense to me.
Age, I mean, Kyle Duggar, that's his second contract coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
Key piece. Jabril Peppers is no older than 28. It has to be. I think his freshman year at Michigan was 2013.
Yeah.
And I just remember that I grew up in Jersey. He was a stud at Bosco and Paramus Catholic. So I remember when he got to Michigan, all the hype around that. When you look at Godchaux and Judon's not going to be here when this team's back to being a serious playoff contender.
No.
So I understand why they look at it. And again, you know what this could be? Middle of the season, Trav?
Trade.
Stuff stuff goes sideways, a defensive
Yeah.
end somewhere out there gets injured,
Yeah.
here's a rental. But to your point, if they actually give Judon a multi-year deal, that's better than a rental. You get more in trade return.
That's what I'm saying. And also, what are you going to get back, even within the injury scenario you laid out, right? You're still going to get a 3 or a 4. What difference does it make?
You need that and how many holes they have to fill because they're going to go first round, offensive line.
Yeah.
Second round, I think they would go receiver. And then you still have to invest, especially in the secondary on this team as Jonathan Jones gets up there in years. And even guys like Jabril Peppers has had injury history but stayed healthy, and elsewhere all across the roster.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking about players getting paid. We got to talk about my boy Jordan Love.
Man.
And we got to talk about your boy Tua Tagovailoa.
Yep.
So Tua Tagovailoa signed a 4-year, $212 million contract.
Yep.
$167 million guaranteed. Then Jordan Love followed, 4 years, $220 million extension. This is right after Tua signed. So it's $55 million a year. But for Love, it's really $160 total guaranteed. And I always go to the guaranteed money, right, T?
Yep.
This is what set Jordan Love's contract aside. It's a backloaded deal. It's only going to be around $40 million a year for the Packers, $40 to $41 million. $75 million signing bonus, a new NFL record. This is amazing. Both guys, and I know this is a very polarizing signing for both players. I wouldn't give this money. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is a $40 million guy a year.
Yep.
But you know what he is? He's a quarterback that executes that system, knows it, is familiar with it. He's in the building, and that's a guy that busts his butt to get out there. Everyone can say how snake bitten he is, the receivers he has. He still executes that playbook at a high level. These are two guys that played the leverage of, I'm a quarterback, you're going to pay me, I'm not giving a hometown discount.
Yeah, Tua, listen, I think Tua actually hit the lottery more so than the Dolphins did. Because we understand it, and you and I have talked about this. When Brian Flores was his coach, he looked like he didn't even belong in the NFL to me.
Brian Flores hated Tua.
Well, regardless of their interpersonal communication, I'm talking about the player on the field stunk. And it looked like Tua belonged in the XFL to me. Now, he gets an offensive-minded guru, young head coach, and all of a sudden, Tua gets paid. So, I actually thought, and I told you this, I thought the Dolphins would be wise to not pay him at all and to just reset, whether they draft a kid or go out and get a veteran and pay them instead, like a Dak Prescott or somebody. I'm just throwing out a name to come in with that system who's more dynamic than Tua. So I look at this deal, even though it is a win-win across the board, the Dolphins, it's not like he's the highest paid player in the league. The Dolphins still have money to do other things. But I think Tua benefits the most from this deal because he is not deserving of that deal at all. It is a system in place. They just love him. He's a great dude. When he's healthy, he can execute said system. But I don't know if he's good enough to take you over the hump. Jordan Love, on the other hand, although I want to see a larger sample size, at least I have seen enough to see, okay, this kid could be the truth. And that's really all these contracts. You start going down all these names, Trevor Lawrence, that's another one. I don't know if I've seen enough. Jordan Love, we're talking about Joe Burrow. Can he stay healthy is now the question there.
Bring up your boy Jared Goff.
Tua, Jared Goff, I'll throw him in there.
Game manager, product of the system and situation.
He's up there. Justin Herbert, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, all these guys got paid, right?
Yeah.
0 for 3 in a Super Bowl. When you start talking about these young quarterbacks, the playoff record's under 500. I mean, you're paying these young quarterbacks now. You're paying for hope. You are hoping that they can take you to the promised land.
You predict that they're going to grow and progress and develop.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. That's what you're doing. So Jordan Love, I understand. Tua, I thought when I first saw it, I said, lucky Tua. Good for him.
I agree with the same way. This is also, to me, a bargain for the Dolphins because you have to pay the tax of the quarterback.
Right.
If you'd rather have a guy than nobody.
Yes.
And they have Tua Tagovailoa. What did you say? He can execute the system.
He can.
He can do it. Shows up, he's healthy, he can do it. Can he do it in a playoff game? Can he do it in cold weather? Can he do it against good teams? That's still yet to be seen.
Right.
But out of those guys you listed, there was a Lamar Jackson, there was a Justin Herbert, and there was a Joe Burrow. Those are guys I would pay. They have the ability, they have the wherewithal, they have the mental toughness that you want in a quarterback, and they have the pure ability and talent. Jordan Love has that too. I know The 8-game sample size, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception to close out the regular season. Then threw 3 tutters in a road playoff win against the Cowboys, right?
Yep.
272 yards.
Yep.
And everyone's going, but he only played 8 games. This is going to be a bargain for the Packers. Because what if he came out and did this again for the next 8 to 17 games? You know what he's going to get, Trav? 60 to 65 million a year. He's going to get that Dak Prescott money. This was a smart signing by the Packers with all their main offensive weapons and receivers and tight ends on rookie scale, team controlled contracts. And when you look into the numbers for what Jordan Love is as an athletic guy, and that system's not going anywhere because Matt LaFleur is staying. He's the head coach. You don't have to worry about your offensive coordinator getting hired off like you have to in other places. 9th highest total value. This is Jordan Love's deal. 9th highest total guarantee. $55 million a year annual. That's the gaudy number, but $75 million signing bonus is a real one.
Yep.
Then if you go into his analytic numbers, 8th highest graded passer out of starting quarterbacks in the NFL. 8th best and big time throw percentage, tied with Brock Purdy.
Yep.
4th highest average depth of target in the NFL. So that means he's an explosive passer and goes for the big plays. And he's bottom half of the NFL, bottom quarter of the NFL in turnover worthy plays. He can make the big throws. He can run the system. He's athletic. He has a chemistry with your young receivers that are under team control for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
He knows your system. He doesn't turn the ball over. And with this, they are predicting his growth and development in Jordan Love. He's going to be a superstar in the NFL. He has that capability to be a top 5 talent. What did he do the last 4 years? Sat behind Aaron Rodgers, was drafted in 2020, sat 3 years, finally year 4 came in and been the starter. What did Tua do? Sat year 1, started the last 3 years, and he's looked okay. They both had their franchises by the stones. They knew they had the leverage because they're not running backs, they're not receivers, they're not corners, they're quarterbacks. And the Dolphins and Packers knew they would rather have a quarterback than nobody, and they had to get these deals done. And they are smart, because they got them done before Dak Prescott got paid.
Right. Yeah, listen, I'll be honest with you, bro. Here's where I'm at. I think the winner of the NFC, the winner of the conference, is going to come out of the North. Every quarterback in that division is elite except J.J. McCarthy, who we're not sure yet.
We don't even know if he's going to be a starter, T.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We just don't know anything about him. But I have faith in Caleb. As you know, I think the Bears will be a wild card team. And I certainly believe that the Lions or the Packers are going to win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. Now, that's just what I think. I happen to believe it's the Lions, but if you told me it's the Packers, I wouldn't bat an eye at all at that. So I think for the NFC now, I'm looking at a 49er team that's knocked so many times on the Super Bowl door and it hasn't opened for them. I just don't think it is. I don't. I know everyone thinks I'm nuts for saying this. I think that team regresses this season. I don't know if I could trust Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, even though I love their offseason. Don't even get me started about Dak and the Cowboys, please. They're fugazi. I think it's between the Lions and the Packers, and maybe the Bears as a sleeper, depending what that defense can do now with Montez Sweat. So I believe that the winner of the NFC is coming out of that North Division. It's going to be Jordan Love or Jared Goff.
And even think about the Packers' defensive setup. Rashawn Gary's there. Kenny Clark's not going anywhere.
Right.
Jair Alexander is there. They went out and got Xavier McKinney on the free agency market, who's a good free safety, a good coverage safety.
Good offensive line, too, always, George.
Good offensive line. Christian Watson, can he stay healthy? But even if he can't, it's Jaden Reed, it's Romeo Doubs, it's Dontavian Wicks, it's Luke Musgrave, all these weapons. They went out and signed the kid from Las Vegas. Oh, my God. How can I
Josh Jacobs.
Thank you, my friend.
I
almost said Jordan Jacobs. I knew it was wrong, at least on that one. This Packers team is loaded up. And then the Lions went out and completely assessed their defense.
That's right.
They went offense in last draft.
I'm telling you.
But they got Brian Branch, who's the gem of that draft for them, along with Jameer Gibbs and Musgrave and Laporta and all that.
I'm telling you, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's the NFC North. It's Bears, Lions, Packers. You look at the NFC West, it's 49ers, maybe the Rams.
I
don't believe in the Falcons out of the South. The Cardinals aren't they're not a serious playoff team.
Yeah, not a
but
Super Bowl. They could be a wild card team, maybe.
And then out of the AFC, it's the gauntlet. It's going to be the Chiefs.
Yes.
It could be the Bengals. We'd see if Joe Burrow stays healthy.
We'll see.
Or if your boy Lamar steps up. Hey, this was the latest in Foxboro Rush. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime, please like, subscribe, rate, and review, and listen along. Comment, on our Instagrams, Nesson, Travis Thomas Experience, George Bilecki. Follow us on X, Twitter. Do the same thing. Tweet at us. And if you're watching on Nesson's YouTube or Nesson Twitch, subscribe as well. Hit that button. We appreciate you guys making us a part of our day, of your day. New episodes dropping every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Unless, something breaking happens, something new happens, like Patriots training camp schedule. But you know where to go for the latest in Patriots and NFL news right here, Foxboro Rush. We'll see you guys next time.